crying little.
Hello guys, and welcome back for part 2 of this matching set series. And just like the first part that I posted with the halter top, I'll be using 4 different shades of a worsted weight 4 yarn. And just a quick reminder, all 4 of my skeins are by Lion Brand's Skein Tones line, and I'll be sticking with my 4.5 mil hook. So following a few similar steps that I used in my previous video, I need to create a chain that can wrap around my waist. But again, I need to create this chain a few inches shorter than my actual measurement to account for some stretch. But this time we're going to make our chain a little bit differently, and we're going to start off with foundation single crochets. And I'll begin by chaining 2. So there's 1, and there's my 2. To make my very first foundation single crochet, I'm going to go back into that very first stitch, poke through, yarn over and pull up a loop. With 2 on, I'll yarn over and pull through only 1. And from here, yarn over and pull through both. So there's my very first foundation single crochet, nice and tiny. Let's add on a few more. So from this point, I want to insert my hook into the base of that first single crochet right here. So I'm going to come back in and go through both of those loops, yarn over and pull up a loop. And again, with 2 on my hook, yarn over and pull through only 1 stitch, yarn over and pull through 2. So here's my second single crochet. Let's add on a few more. To show you guys again, I'm going to insert my hook at the bottom of that single crochet. So right here, and I'll go through both of those loops and pull up a loop. With 2 on, pull through 1, and with 2 on, pull through both. So continue to make your chain until you can reach your waist measurement. For me, my waist is roughly 28 inches around, so I'm going to crochet until my chain can reach about 25 inches long. Okay, so I'm back, and for my measurements, I used a foundation single crochet of about 82 stitches, and although I can't get the entire chain on camera, my foundation stretches to about 28 inches long. And because I used a foundation single crochet chain, this will technically count as my first row. So to start my second row, I'm going to chain 2 and turn my work. To start row 2 and for the rest of this pattern, I'll only be using double crochets. So to make row 2, here after my chain 2, I'll go ahead and place 1 double crochet into the top of each stitch. And in case you're not sure how to do that, you're going to yarn over and find your very next stitch, insert through the top of both those loops, pull up a loop, with 3 on, yarn over and pull through 2, and then yarn over and pull through 2 again. So right here I have 2 double crochets. To show you again, yarn over and find that next stitch, insert through both of those top loops and pull up a stitch, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And just repeat this for the entire row, and I'll meet you back here at the end. And here at the end of row 2, I'm finishing my very last double crochet. And from here I can chain 2 and turn my work. To start row 3, I'll repeat the same exact steps from row 2 by placing 1 double crochet in at the top of each stitch. So there's my first, finding the next stitch, insert through the top, And I'm just working my way down the row. After I finish the third row, I'll repeat those same steps for 3 more rows. So after my foundation row, I should have a total of 6 rows of regular double crochets. At the end of my 6th row, I'll chain 2 and turn my work. And I still need to add a few more rows of this cream color, but now I need to start adding increases on my corners. To start my 7th row, I'll add 1 regular double crochet into the very first stitch. And here at my 2nd stitch is where I'll place my 2 double crochet increase. So here at my 2nd stitch, I'll yarn over and insert for my first double crochet. And one more time, I'm going to go right back into that same stitch and add an increase. So as you can see here, I have 1 double crochet in that first stitch and 2 here in my 2nd. And from this point, I can continue to work 1 double crochet like normal for the entire row until you get to your last 2 stitches. And this is just the way that I prefer to add my increases. A lot of people choose to add their increase in that very first stitch, but I find that it makes the edge of my work a little bit wonky. So I like to add it into my 2nd stitch instead of the first to give it a cleaner edge. So I'll continue to work the rest of the 7th row until I have 2 stitches left, and then I'll come back and show you how to complete that. And to finish my 7th row, I have 2 stitches left here. So here at my 2nd to last, I'm going to add 2 double crochet. There's my first, going right back into that same stitch for an increase. And then here at that very last stitch, add 1 regular double crochet. And to start the 8th row, I can chain 2 and turn my work. For the 8th row, I'm not going to add any increases. I'm just going to add 1 double crochet into each stitch. So do not add that increase at your 2nd stitch, just place 1 double crochet and keep it moving. And when I come back for that 9th row, I will have my increases again. For my 9th row, I'll chain 2 and turn the work. And for the 9th row, I'll be increasing on the corners again. So to start, I'll begin with 1 regular double crochet. And then here at my 2nd stitch is where I'll place that increase. So I'll go in for my very first. There's 1 double crochet, yarn over and come right back into that same stitch for an increase. And now I have 2 double crochet into that 2nd stitch. And then for the rest of the row, I'll go back to using just 1 regular double crochet into the top of each stitch. And again, don't forget to add your increase at the end of your 9th row as well. So here I'm 2 stitches away. I'm going to add my increase in the 2nd to last stitch. So there's my first double crochet, going right back in. There's my 2nd stitch. And here at that very last stitch in the row, place 1 double crochet. And there's my increase again. And just like with row 8, I'm only going to place 1 double crochet into the top of each stitch. So there are no increases for this row. Just working like normal. And I'll meet you back at the end of the 10th row to change out my colors. And at the very last stitch in the row, I'm going to switch out my color. So I'm going to work the first part of my double crochet and pull through 2. And with 2 on the hook, I'm going to add my new yarn to the hook and pull through those last 2 stitches. So now I'll be starting the 11th row with my new color, and I can chain 2 and turn the work. And for row 11, I will be increasing again on my corners. So I'm going to start off with my very first stitch, bringing both of my tails with me, pull through that loop, and make my first double crochet. And then here at my 2nd stitch, I'm going to enter, make my first double crochet, and going right back into that same loop, I'm going to add my increase, So you should have 2 double crochet into that same stitch. We're just repeating the same exact steps from row 7 and row 9. And to finish out my 11th row, I'm going to do it a little bit differently. So I have 2 stitches left. I'm going to work my increase in my second to last stitch. So there's 1, back in for 2 double crochet. So now I have my increase. Here at my very last stitch, I'm going to place my 1 double crochet. So ending the row like normal. And now I'm actually going to join my piece in the round. So now I want to grab the other edge of the panel and line them up. And I actually want to connect the 2 edges to start working in a round. So I'm going to find that chain 2 space at the start of my row and insert my hook. And now I'm going to slip stitch the 2 ends together. So I'm going to pull through and pull through. And now my 2 ends are connected. So now that I'm working in the round, I need to turn my work at the end of each row. So to start my second row of the new color, I'm going to chain 2. And from here, I'm going to turn my work. And because I added my increases on the previous row, for this row, I'm just going to work with regular double crochets. So no increases, just placing 1 double crochet into the top of each stitch. And at the end of my second row with this new brown color, I have 1 stitch left. So here's where I need to change out my yarn. I'm going to pull through the first 2 loops, add on my new brown color, and pull through the second 2 loops with that new color. And before I start my next row, I need to slip stitch it to that chain 2 space. So pull through. And now I can start my first row with this new color. So I'll chain 2, and from here, I'll turn my work. For my first row with this new yarn, I need to add my increases again at the beginning and end of my row. So place your 1 double crochet in the first stitch. And here at my second stitch, I'll place my increase of 2. There's my first stitch, back in, and there's my second. And now I'll just continue to work the row like normal with 1 double crochet. And at the end of this row, don't forget to add your increase in your second to last stitch. And when you go to work your second row with this new brown color, you can work it like normal with no increases. So I finished up those last 2 rows with my dark brown color, and now for the rest of this maxi skirt, I'm just going to repeat this pattern. So as you guys can see here, I finished out my row and attached my new cream color. And I believe my plan for the rest of this skirt is to repeat this exact pattern about 4 or 5 more times. So from this point here, I'll be adding 10 rows of my cream color, 2 rows with my first color, 2 rows with my second, and then again 2 rows with my dark chocolate color. And again, I'll just be repeating this pattern until the skirt is long enough for me. And a quick note, I'll still need to be adding my increases on every other row until the skirt is wide enough to fit my hips. I've already gone ahead and tried on the skirt to see if it fits me, and I've decided that I need to add just a few more rows of my increases. That way it can stretch over my wider hips. Alright, so I have finally finished up the rest of my midi skirt. And I apologize about the change of scenery, but I could not fit the entire skirt on my table. I know I mentioned earlier in the tutorial that I planned on repeating this brown stripe section 4 or 5 times in total, but because I'm pretty short and I'm only about 5 feet tall, I could only repeat the brown stripe section 3 times. And as you can see here, I decided to end my skirt with one more section of the cream color. And for those of you who might be a little bit confused on my increase rows, I decided to continue increasing on every other row until the end of my second cream section. So once I started working on my second stripe section, I was no longer adding increases, and for the remainder of the skirt, I'm only adding on rows working with 1 double crochet into each stitch. And in order to finish up the very last part of our skirt, as you guys remember in the very beginning of my pattern, I left the entire first cream section unconnected. And in order to lace up this open section of the skirt, I created about a 2-foot long chain and strung it back and forth all along the edge of this white section. And now when you go to tie up the back of your skirt, you won't be stretching out your work.
Ryan Little.